If you're going to grow, you're going to have to make changes. If you have to make changes, your employees are going to be running into challenges. They're going to be doing things differently. There's going to be some conflict, some stress. That's when you need an organizational philosophy. Thanks for watching us here at WowBizTV. I'm Lynn Hinderacher, and I'm visiting with Mr. Dan Sedor. Now, Dan is Senior VP at Leadership Resources in Lincoln, Nebraska. He's an expert in managing philosophy and helping everybody think similarly and adapt to a changing environment. Dan, tell me, what's going on when you bring in people and they sit there and say, oh, I'm stressed out and I'm not sure I can keep up and I need somebody to tell me what to do? What's the key idea that you want to share with those people typically that really can help an organization stick with it, come together, and reach a new outcome?
Well, Lynn, I appreciate the intro. You're making me sound like I'm Socrates or Confucius.
No, but really, philosophy is an important thing because it creates meaning.
It is.
And meaning is important to people.
And to us, the philosophy that we adopt and that we work with successful organizations is it's about process, it's about patience,
okay,
and it's about persistence.
All right.
Because without process, things don't continue. And change, after all, often doesn't just happen and stop. It has to maintain itself.
Yeah.
And the patience piece is, the reality is things just don't happen and start and stop overnight and then they're there. It takes time, so we have to have some patience to let things play out.
And also patience with ourselves.
Oh, there's no doubt. Whether it's us or others.
Yeah.
And then the last piece is the persistence, is we've got to still stick to it. We can't give up too early, too easily.
Yes.
Because guess what? The reason why something doesn't exist is because of obstacles, challenges, and issues. And that's why persistence is key to keep going and working through those, along with the process and patience.
Yeah. Now, sometimes we have to change our skill set or we have to become better at something that we've never really had to do before. This is very common. Employees get very insecure. If things don't go well, they start blaming people around them and so on. Tell us, what's the key if you're trying to learn a new skill or take on some new responsibility?
Yeah. Well, beyond being receptive to change, which is the first thing, because let's face it, you and I cannot change anybody else. They've got to have to accept the change and the responsibility to change.
Yeah, there's an axiom along the way there I have to share with you, which is be the change you expect from others.
Yeah, you bet. And once you do that, then the key comes to spaced repetition. It's a phrase that we use all the time, and it's really around, let's face it, wherever we're at today happened over repeated exposure, repeated experiences, repeated activities that got us to where we're at today.
So it's habit and conditioning.
You bet it is.
Okay.
And ultimately, if we're going to change a habit, we've got to recondition.
Yeah.
We've got to create new experiences. We've got to find a way to repeat things over time and time again, because at least then we have a fighting chance to maintain that and gain that habit that we need.
And typically, supervisors who are effective or middle managers have to be able to reward small incremental changes in behavior. If they don't get that psychological reward, just kind of dissipates. Yeah. Is that right?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Because there's two kind of rewards for us. Some people are externally motivated, extrinsically motivated, and they need those those pats in the back, the thank yous, and things they're given from the outside.
Yes.
Others are more intrinsically motivated, and internally they have that self-drive. Those folks tend to need less of the external. I'm not saying they don't need any. They need less of it. Yeah. And really, figuring out who is driven by which is really important.
Do leadership roles change in a change initiative? Do people step up and suddenly they're showing their true stripes, or they're doing things that we've never seen them do before, or they're assuming leadership roles? Or do people pretty much progress at pretty much the same level and the dynamics of a team stay the same?
What a loaded question, Lynn. The reality is everyone's quite different. It's amazing. Some people will step up that you least expected, and others kind of let you down a little bit. So it kind of goes back to the individual, the situation, the environment, and frankly goes back to the support system that they have behind them and how much confidence they have in their own abilities. And again, that's an internal thing. So with all those variables, it's going to go person to person.
Tough to generalize.
It really is. But the reality is we have to watch for, pay attention to the progress. And the whole notion of spaced repetition is, as you're seeing the repeated exposure, some people will accelerate out of that more than others, and you just have to help those people acclimate and adjust. Yeah.
Do people's expectations of themselves during these kinds of change initiatives, and something's happening in the culture, we're moving forward, and so do their expectations of who they are and what they're supposed to be doing, do they change a lot, or do they remain pretty much the same? Oh, I'm a follower, I'm kind of a behind-the-scenes guy, or are those things kind of static and always with us?
Yeah. Well, I think the reality is we can all lead when we need to. We can all step up and assert ourselves when we need to. Some of us has those stronger tendencies, though.
Yes.
We want to do that ongoing all the time. And we have to get to know ourselves, because just because I might be high in assertiveness and want to lead and control others.
Yes.
And in certain scenarios, that's going to be a very good attribute in a certain element.
Right, and
But
at a certain time.
At certain times it'll work against me. And so it's really coming back to being aware of those things.
Yeah.
And that's why awareness is the key to change. And until we're aware, it's hard to even know what to change to.
You know, at Leadership Resources, I'm so surprised in your training, Reg, was very interesting because you do talk a lot about awareness, self-awareness, emotional intelligence. Those are kind of introspective, reflective things. And until recently, frankly, in the training and management science arena, it was always about external rewards and outcomes and get this done and get that done. But I hear you guys talking a lot more about enjoying the journey and kind of coming into your highest self as you're evolving and those kinds of transformational language, I guess.
Yes, no doubt. In fact, let's face it, we're all so busy doing whatever we have to do, the next phone call, the next email, the next task to get done.
Right.
That in our process at Leadership Resources, we take time to stop and reflect and learn from the past so we don't repeat certain things.
Sure.
And vice versa, learn from what worked well so we do more of it, and be much more conscious and deliberate about how we lead, how we move forward, and how we make a difference.
But I also noticed that you emphasize future. There's a lot of emphasis on vision. Where are we going? Because we kind of forget about that. It becomes just a plaque on the wall.
You bet. Well, future is about being proactive.
Yeah.
Because we can live in the moment, which we need to on occasion.
Yes, that's what I was going to get at. In fact, you got to my point. How do you live in the moment and still focus on the future, right?
Well, and that's just it. You know, if deep down I am thinking about what's right for the long term, what's right for the future, then I can be in the moment. I can be there. I can set aside any of my intentions and my agendas and really be there for an individual to really get to know them, really help them understand themselves better. Because the more I understand that person and ask them those kind of questions and get them to think for themselves, the better off they're going to be. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter about what I'm thinking. It's about what they're thinking.
Well, Dan Cedar, that is extremely insightful. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And that really is the key to change management and really cultural transformation, a topic we've talked about already. Thanks for watching us here on WowBizTV with Leadership Resources in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinterrocker.